Hello, everybody. My name is Ron Gonen. I'm a adjunct professor here at Columbia Business School, also a entrepreneur who started my business at Columbia Business School. And I'm very excited to be here today for the Social Venture Pitch Competition. When I was at Columbia Business School 10 years ago, it's hard for me to imagine that. I know you hear people say that all the time, but I used to be in your place thinking people say that all the time, and now I'm up here actually saying that when I was here and developing a social venture, there was not a room like this for this number of people focused on social ventures. There was maybe one of these tables, and sometimes I was just there on my own along with Sandra Navali, who you'll meet. So it's awesome to see the progress the social entrepreneurship has made in the country, and especially at Columbia. So this is fantastic. You're going to see the pitches. The pitches are going to be about 10 minutes each, and then there'll be some questions. And then at the end of the pitches, you guys will be able to vote. I want to thank I'm Good for doing the pitch competition for us and the voting. You can see how to vote on the back of your card. So when that's ready, you'll be able to do your vote. I'd like to thank our two judges, Alberto from the Collaborative Fund. I'm actually a LP in the Collaborative Fund. It's one of the great new funds that has started recently to focus on social entrepreneurship, and Kesha from Jalia Ventures, also a great alum of Columbia Business School, right? So, okay, sounds good. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to have Abran Maldonado from NuSkool present. Are you? Oh, you're here. Okay, great. All right, so one quick thing about the pitch. The pitch is 10 minutes. Okay, but and then we have about 3 to 4 minutes for a question and answer. If you need the entire 10 minutes, take the entire 10 minutes. If you don't, you'll be able to receive more questions from the judges. Okay, great.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. Should I exit out of this? Is it on here? Oh, it's already in here. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. This was a great opportunity. I did attend Columbia University, but not the business school. I attended Teachers College. And just, you know, it's great to come back to the campus and see how lively it is. And everyone's so invested. And people say the millennial and digital native generations are fully invested into the betterment of society and our world. And this is proof positive of that movement. So NuSkool, there's an engagement crisis happening in our society. Many do not realize the impact that it's truly having. Nearly 50% of students who drop out of high school do so because they are simply bored or they feel the content isn't relevant to their lives. There's many issues why students drop out of high school, many circumstances out of our control. Boredom in the classroom should not be one of them. There's socioeconomic reasons, there are circumstances, family circumstances. Simply just being bored is an area that I feel is inexcusable and an area that can be addressed and is within the control of the educators in the classroom. So the problem is teachers aren't trained to engage. They're trained in their various capacities and in their disciplines. They're trained to be math teachers, science teachers, social studies. They're not trained to make the classroom engaging and captivating. So what you're dealing with is we are trying to present this when their world looks like this. And how do we compete with the students' lives when everything outside of the classroom is set according to their preferences, the way that they prefer? They are able to personalize and hack and do things as they please and live in a world that's under their control everywhere else except the classroom. So we were trying to change that. This is work that I've been doing for years in the entertainment business and then transitioned into education as a Gates Scholar and started to do research behind pop culture's use in the classroom. And we came up with a simple solution, which seems like a simple solution, but came out of years of research. And the platform, as we feel is a time for a change, is NuSkool. It's the first real-world learning curriculum platform. It's an ed tech startup where you can now find curriculum for grades 6 through 12 all aligned to students' lives. What does that mean? Pop culture, entertainment, media, and all things relevant in current events in the real world. And as you see with the new standards coming about in education, the Common Core, it's the new buzzword going around, In the mission statement of the Common Core, they're asking for more real-world curriculum, nonfiction-based text, responding to society as things are happening, and this is where we come in. And we reached a juncture where we were already doing this, and now the mandates with the national standards are aligning to our own mission. So the mission is pretty in plain sight. The venture, the opportunity in the business world is where things really get tricky, and we had to decide, do we make this nonprofit or do we make this for-profit? My mother worked her entire career in the nonprofit sector. She's an educator or a workshop facilitator at the Foundation Center, teaching grant writing and fundraising. So I grew up in that mentality. I grew up around nonprofits my entire life, but my mission was to try and find a way to make this profitable, to make this sustainable. And the way that we do that is we presented the idea of branded education. So essentially, we present an opportunity for entertainment to be developed into a curriculum. So instead of charging teachers a subscription to access that curriculum, it's completely free to schools and to teachers, and we flip the model on its head and now charge the entertainment companies for that curriculum resource. And we say, have you offset the cost and leave it free for the schools. It makes no sense for us to charge the teachers and give free advertising to the brands. So we reversed that and charged the brands and made it free for the schools. The branded entertainment business is a huge market. It's growing. It's an accelerated market, reaching $38.2 billion by next year. So we're tapping into that branded entertainment market to create a pocket of branded education. And the way it works is we work directly with the brands and the clients, whether it's an agency, whether it's a brand client, but the curriculum development happens at NuSkool by NuSkool educators. All of the lesson plans on our site are made by educators and for educators. So we're asking them to just give us access to your resources, let us create the project scope for how to deliver this to the schools, since we know best, and we're simply just using your properties and your titles and your franchises. And they release control. They know that we're the better experts when it comes to education, rather than trying to dangle what we call chocolate-covered broccoli and having SpongeBob run around trying to do algebra lessons. So the way the platform works, right now in its initial MVP, what we call minimum viable product in the ed tech startup world, you click on the Find Lessons button, and now teachers can search lessons by grade level, subject, and now entertainment genre. So where before you would find lessons aligned to grade and subject, you now find by entertainment genre, where you can put in 9th grade, science, and you can choose between TV, music, film, sports, video games, social networking, and all things pop culture. What you'll see is the lesson results, very aesthetically impactful. The teachers can find things in a tiled format that they're used to. You know, a lot of people have Pinterest boards, or they use Learnist and other LMS systems that provide lesson plans in this format. You click on a lesson, and here's an example of a concept lesson we created in a pitch that we're doing to Warner Brothers Entertainment that works around the physics of Superman. We curate media that's already out there and make it easier for the teachers to find. So we found a whole debate happening on The Big Bang Theory about whether or not Superman would catch Lois if she fell out of a helicopter, right? And the physics principles of whether or not he would make it in time. So we included that video. There's actually a whole documentary on the physics of Superman that we included. We find content providers and curators that are already out there and just integrate that into our platform. But what we provide is the actual lesson plan, the how do I use this in my classroom, which is the missing piece for most teachers. Next step for version 2, right now our version is teacher-facing. For version 2 is the student interaction format, where we're going to be developing assessments that are gamified, where students are completing Common Core standard-aligned assessments that apply to their homeworks in their classrooms, where they're gaining points and possibly earning rewards that are provided by the sponsors, such as earning the Arkham Origins Collector's Edition for the new Arkham Origins video game. Teachers found their way to the site on their own. We have organic adoption. This came out of teacher demand. I was doing work like this since 2003, but in a workshop setting, physically with teachers and doing professional development. And it just grew to a point where they were asking, hey, can you email me a lesson on hip hop, or can you email me a lesson on video games? So rather than emailing them one-off resources, we decided to scale the platform, create a digital platform that they can access. And teachers around the world, as far as Egypt, Estonia, Canada, South Africa, have found their way to the site and found it very useful in their own regions. So again, what we do in our model are finding teachable moments. We call it seeing the numbers in the matrix. Our team has a proprietary training method that we developed in our time at Teachers College and at NYU, where we see, with a trained eye, we can watch a movie and say, at the 20-minute mark, that's a social studies lesson. At the 10-minute mark, that's a science lesson. And that's a training that we do within our team to find those teachable moments that organically exist in their learning and entertainment. And again, captive audience, common core, and this is all real time. We develop and refresh our library weekly. Currently, the organic traction, I think about now with an update, is about 4,500 teachers using the platform. And you think about each teacher represents about 140 students when you think about all the classes that they teach. So you multiply that to the amount of teachers that are using the platform. And we recently reached an enterprise distribution deal with Pearson to provide our full library content into their LMS or their learning management system, OpenClass. And we're exploring other channel partnerships to do the same with other LMSs like Ngrade and Schoology and some other ones you might be familiar with. My team are a team of educators, as I mentioned, who edit the content. We pay every teacher that submits content to our site, so it's not crowdsourced. And this comes from my background in entertainment, working as an artist manager in music publishing, and then transitioning into my master's at Teachers College, and now working on a PhD on teaching and learning at NYU. That's NuSkool. Thank you very much.
Questions?
I'll go first. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to finally meet you.
How do you measure the outcomes of the
Sure.
learning that's taking place in
So
class?
I participated in a panel earlier, Educating Young Minds with Do Something in Sesame, and that was a great panel, and that came up. We were talking about how to measure the impacts, and there's so many different things to think about. And I'll even present from a business standpoint, what wasn't discussed in that panel is, from a business standpoint, all we need to measure are teachers returning to the site. From an education and impact standpoint, we need to measure achievement and impact on the student. So from a business standpoint, to leverage and justify to our investors, do we have a returning user base? Yes, right? But this is the subject of my PhD also, so we have to set a treatment control study and decide what construct are we going to measure. Is it going to be academic achievement? Is it going to be engagement, increased productivity, better behavior in the classroom, better participation? So we have to decide which one of those we're going to study and then go through the channels, the IRB approval, since we're going to use student subjects and physically be in classrooms and things like that. So it's on the list. It's on our to-do list, definitely.
Thank you.
So my question is, I wonder how did you decide to go through the, branded, the sponsorship model, then, as said, not crowdsourcing, because there's so much content out there on YouTube, and if you imagine teachers all around the country can create their own content and share that, wouldn't that be more richer than?
So we, since there's a very distinct model for aligning pop culture and education, we don't want to just crowdsource it without vetting it, right? We want to make sure that we have eyes on it and our editors make sure that it's rigorous enough from an academic standpoint and it's engaging enough from a pop culture standpoint. And which is why we rather have a freelance network of teachers who are submitting content and we pay them for their submissions, but we have a chance to review the content before it goes live on the site. If we decide to do a crowdsource, it will be a separate tab on our site called Community where teachers can submit their own content.
I love the example that you gave about physics being taught through a skit on
Sure.
Superman and then there's something else. How confident are you that there's enough very engaging material currently out there to match up with all the lesson plans that teachers need to teach?
Well, the teaching moments are out there everywhere, right? And it helps that we don't just focus on a particular genre or a particular subject. We cover all subjects and all genres. So that helps us expand our web or our net, essentially. But we don't necessarily have to be a fully exhaustive library where we're offering hundreds of thousands of lesson plans, right? You compare it to a digital publisher or a magazine, there's a finite number of articles, there's a finite number of content within each issue. So where our goal right now is to do about 100 to 200 lessons a month. I don't think we need to do more than that at this stage.
And you think there's enough, I think there's probably enough content out there about physics that someone tried to make engaging or hoped was engaging, but do you feel like there's actually enough content out there that is truly engaging for topics like physics or some other hard-to-learn subjects?
So an example, we were doing a pitch for Turner, right? So one of their cartoons, Ben 10. So we went through each of the episodes and we explained to them that we can create 5 lesson plans for one episode, right? So if you think about a whole season's worth and think about how many lesson plans that can actually be, and this is just off of one property, and then they say, okay, well, what about Adventure Time? And then what about this show? And what about the new show with The Rock and the Hero Challenge? And you think about how many different angles you can go with each of the different properties.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Yeah, can you speak a bit more about your revenue model and the response that you've received so far from brands?
Okay, so it's not based on a CPM just yet. Once we develop more analytics about how many people are visiting the site and interaction, then we could charge more based on the audience that we're giving them, because we're also giving them the eyeballs in addition to creating the content. Right now, it's more on a project base where we charge them per lesson plan. So for a suite of lesson plans, they tell us, all right, focus on these shows and these games. We give them a project overview and a project scope of the amount of curriculum that they can get. And it starts with the lesson plans, and then it goes into generating media, infographics, videos, so on and so forth, and then doing onboarding with the teachers, going physically into the schools to do workshops with the students and schools.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. That's excellent. Thank you. Where were you when I was in high school? All right, next we have Tommy Mitchell. Tommy, are you, yep, ready? Okay. All right, good luck. So 10 minutes, and then we'll open up some questions for you, okay?
All right, excellent. That absolutely happened. Okay,
Okay,
cool.
take your time whenever you get ready. We'll start the
Great.
clock, okay?
I am ready. Okay, so for this, first, let me just warn you, this is going to be like a really visual pitch. It's about to happen. So my name's Tommy Mitchell, founder, CEO of a company called Green Barrel Energy, and we make solar charging stations for mobile devices right now. So if, you know, put them in public spaces, you just walk up and you can plug your phone in. So this is a true story. In Miami a few months ago, there was a homeless man who was arrested for sneaking into a public park at night and plugging his cell phone in. And the arrested officer quoted the charges for stealing public utilities. The charges would end up being dropped, but it was just like an interesting thing to have happen. And that's not yet like the problem we are trying to solve, but that's just an interesting opportunity. And the way that I got started in this, I was walking past the Occupy movement. I saw some people charging their cell phones in a gas generator that belonged to a hot dog vendor. So I built this little contraption right here, so a few people could just charge their phones, took it out to the protests, and a long line formed. So I was like, wow, what else can happen here? So I called a bunch of parks. Bryant Park ended up being the most interested and excited. So we worked together, we formed a partnership for product development and testing, and I built a little machine for the public to use and put it in their park for about all of 2012, just getting some data, like testing the usage, trying to figure out if this was really like a product that could exist. Turns out it is. So then Hurricane Sandy came about. And at this point, the machine was still in Bryant Park, but we saw that the real reason we took it out of the park was we were scared of what was going to happen to it. And then afterwards, once we saw this happening, we realized that we had like one of the few power sources in downtown. So we took the machine and shopped it around Lower Manhattan to some spaces that really needed it. And this is the machine in the Flatiron district, right in front of the Flatiron building. And we put it there for a few days right after Hurricane Sandy, and this really interesting thing happened. So when I first built this machine, you know, I was really focused on charging people's phones. But then I started to realize, like I said earlier, you know, the problem that needs to be solved here is not really charging people's phones. Like, that's it's a luxury. It's just something that would be really convenient. The real issue here and the real problem turns out to be exactly what the theme of this year's conference is. How do businesses and how do social impact firms and groups, or anyone who really has a voice that needs to speak, how do they reach the people that they want to have access to? And it turns out that this machine is just a perfect solution for reaching the general public. So we put the machine out there. Initially, people were just amazed at the fact that they could charge their phones. And then slowly, they started forming this community around the machine. People who had never met before were suddenly exchanging emails, exchanging phone numbers, making business contacts, bonding over what it's like to live in the dark in New York City, and just generally making friends. And they would all inquire about, like, who is the company who's doing this? What is this about? This is incredible. I didn't know that solar could be used like this. What else can you use solar for? And there was just a whole new environment of education, of interactivity, of just general inquisitive behavior that was happening around this thing that they had never really seen before, but they loved. So I took this machine and working with Bryant Park, it turns out, this will be a good time, so it turns out a lot of public spaces in urban areas aren't actually operated by the city. They're actually operated by these private entities called business improvement districts, and they make money in a few different ways. A good example is City Bike. So that's like a public amenity. The city bank is paying for it. In Bryant Park, you can play ping pong. That's sponsored by Coca-Cola. You can read a book in their outdoor library. That's sponsored by HSBC. You can go ice skating October through February. That's sponsored by City also. And they also, in this process, make their own outdoor furniture. So it just happens that Bryant Park is like the father of this business improvement district model. So I partnered with their industrial designer. He's this world-renowned street furniture designer, which is a huge industry I've discovered. And he's also responsible for this bench. It's like the city's official bench. And the other participant in this is this company in Michigan called Landscape Forums. They're like the North America's largest fabricator of outdoor street furniture. And you might have seen this bench around. They're responsible for all the street furniture that's around all of New York City and a bunch of metropolitan areas around the world. So the three of us, me, Ignacio from Bryant Park and Landscape Forums, got together, and we turned this machine into this machine. So this is what's in development. Actually, it's in production right now. And it's the same thing, a solar charging station. It charges 6 phones at a time. And you can sit around it. This person did not decide to sit, probably because there are no chairs. But you can sit around it. It has the same concept. It creates a level of engagement with each other, but also with the machine. So this machine is internet connected. You can interact with it via Bluetooth. There will be eventually video screens on it that show different types of content. It can survive in the dark for a few days, just in case the sun should disappear. And it's portable, it's movable. It turns out in these public spaces, it's really important to keep the environment flexible so that they can provide different amenities. So all of that, we kind of compressed the research and the learning from the year in Bryant Park and the time out in the Flatiron Plazas and put this together. So in order to put this into the world was kind of a difficult thought process. Like, okay, here's like a cool thing, but how do you make it exist? So these BIDs, these business improvement districts, there's 75 in New York City. Each are represented here by one of these little barrels. And the concept I'm trying to create is, I call it the safety net. Like for us now, getting back to like the opportunity, which is in the convenience of not having your phone die, wherever you go as a pedestrian, you should be able to enjoy the outdoors but not stress about your phone dying. There's actually a word for your phone dying, fear of it. It's called nomophobia. So it exists, and I guess we can all relate. So the concept here is to put these machines in these public spaces under the same model that HSBC or that Coca-Cola has. It's a service and it's an amenity that they want to provide to the public. So we partner with the public spaces. Right now we're working with Bryant Park, 34th Street, which is near Macy's, and Chelsea, and the High Line for a contract for 3 to 5 years where we get like all the advertising rights and the service rights to provide this service to the general public. And they will work with us to find brands to sponsor that amenity in their public space. So here's like an example of the very minimum sponsorship, what it could look like. Just physical branding of an actual machine. This is hypothetical. We are working with Whole Foods, but it's a different business model for how we're going to get it there. We can also promote like digital coupons. So with Whole Foods, we're working to put a machine in their space, and then we'll promote a coupon. Every time someone takes a coupon, we all share some profits. And so next, we're working, the same group, me, Ignacio, and this company, Landscape Forums, we're working on developing street furniture that is all solar powered to kind of help further this concept. So bus stops that are solar powered that now we can have like convenient access to power. And different places where you can put a charge station, and different ways that you can incorporate renewable energy in urban infrastructure that already exists. And that is it.
Questions?
Yeah, you mentioned the dynamics of people sharing the station during the Sandy event. So if you go to airports, if you look around, the dynamics are quite different, I guess. So how do you compare that?
Yeah, I think the core thing here is that like this is just kind of unexpected, and it's that the excitement that happens around it is just kind of inspiring for like different types of thought, and it's like a real world in your face type of innovation. Whereas in airports, also this is just me making assumptions, there's just like general kind of stress, and people are so focused on the convenience of the actual machine that they don't even really have the time to think about what's really happening, which they are using dirty power, but not to go into philosophical stuff. That's what's happening.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I would love to know more about the machine, the manufacturing costs, your manufacturer, some idea of how many of these machines you plan to roll out in the next 6 months, and the impact of that.
So the machine costs $10,000 to make. We've discovered that brands are willing to pay around $2,000 a month for just raw branding. And our manufacturer is based in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And they're literally the largest street furniture manufacturer in America, with like global reach. So if you go to Disney World, you're gonna see like, they're responsible for the benches, the tables, things like that. Wherever you go in New York City, they're responsible for the majority of the benches and tables and trash cans and bus stops. And the way we are working with them is a little different. So they have reach. They also like outfit business campuses. The industry is also called like site furnishings. So you break down like the world into different sites. Like New York City is kind of a site, but then you can break it down to like neighborhoods or like amusement parks. And when these spaces are like first being developed, this is like a part of their development process. And this company, Landscape Forums, is a company that most spaces go to when they're like, okay, we're building like a new hotel, we're building a new amusement park, we need to fill it with like all the benches and things like that. And so we're putting our product into their line of products so that whenever they are like, okay, we're now outfitting this space with certain furniture, here's something else that we have to offer. And once the machine is there, that's when we're like, oh, surprise, here's a business model for us too.
Two questions for you. One is, what's your background? Number one. Number two is, what stops people from seeing this product and saying, there's no distinct intellectual property, it's a product, I can go manufacture it, and there being 5 guys out on the street selling something similar?
Right. My actual formal background is in neuroscience, but I moved to the city to work with renewable energy, so I worked at a renewable energy company here, and they actually kind of struggled with marketing. They had like a street guerrilla style marketing strategy, and this kind of just emerged from that as an opportunity to create something that could be used from that as well. And the real core here, this definitely isn't like an IP play. It's more of like a land grab. And we are trying to lock down the exclusive like advertising rights and service rights for the individual spaces. So the core and the real value are like the 3 to 5 year contracts that we give to public spaces in order to actually provide the service.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to have Casey Santiago from Kangoo.org.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so 10 minutes, and then we'll ask you questions. If you get done before 10 minutes, more time for questions. Okay?
Great. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Be able to get,
Clicker's not working. This is not our clicker.
Was that what those guys were using?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can probably just come over.
Okay. Yeah, it's not working.
You okay doing it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me just move this around.
In true entrepreneurial style, she's going to
Wing it.
innovate and adjust, so extra points to you. Okay, whenever you're ready, take your time getting set up, okay?
Okay, great. Let's just make sure this works. Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Casey Santiago. I am the founder and CEO of Kangoo.org, which is a crowdfunding website for safe births. We believe that no woman should die in pregnancy or childbirth for lack of access to basic healthcare services. I'm going to start by introducing you to two women. That's me, about 3 years ago. This is Irene. She lives in southern Uganda in East Africa. Now, when I was pregnant, like so many other pregnant women in the world, I was nervous and I was worried. But what I knew is that I would have help when I needed it. I would have access to healthcare services. I would survive. I knew that I was going to live. And I knew that barring any, pretty rare circumstances, my baby would also live. Unfortunately for Irene and women like her, they don't have that luxury. By virtue of where Irene was born, she has a 1 in 45 chance of not surviving her pregnancies. But we know what it takes to save women's lives. The good part of the story here, and the part that I always rush to say very quickly, is that there's a tremendous opportunity. We can prevent 90% of maternal mortality with access to basic healthcare services. And there are hospitals and NGOs and clinics all over the world who are providing these services for about $200 per woman. So there's actually a tremendous opportunity to make a change in this issue of maternal mortality. At Kangoo, we believe that if we could make visible women like Irene, if we could put a human face on maternal mortality, that people would come together and unlock a new source of capital so that no woman had to die giving birth. And to that end, we created Kangoo. Kangoo is an online crowdfunding platform. You go on the website, it's www.kangoo.org. You go online and you can search profiles of pregnant women right now in India, Uganda, Burundi, and Nepal. You can see their picture. You can read a little bit about them, their hopes and dreams, a little bit how they're preparing for the birth, different details of their lives, and contribute $10 or more to the cost of their safe birth. This is Margaret. Her safe birth will cost $235. As you can see, a number of people came together to fund her safe birth, and they'll receive updates on the outcome of her birth and the care that she received. For individuals, Kangoo provides an easy, affordable, and very concrete way to fund a specific woman. For hospitals and nonprofits, what we do is we aim to unlock a new source of capital for them so they can expand their life-saving services. And then more broadly, what Kangoo does is really disrupt the traditional international aid model by connecting directly donors and beneficiaries. So who are our customers? Well, the mommy market is really the engine of our growth. The mommy market, by saying that, we refer to expectant, pregnant women and new moms, and then those who care for them and support them. So they're personally connected to the issue, having just been through the experience themselves or going through it at the time. I'm very grateful for the services that they received and the health of themselves and their babies. It's a growing market. So every year in the US alone, 4 million new babies are born. This mommy market is very web savvy and very social. So there are 1.1 million moms in the US who are online and checking social networking sites at least 3 times a week. They're online, they're purchasing, they're donating, they're sharing, they're connecting, they're seeking information, and ultimately they're seeking community. Finally, it's a very philanthropic group. So many new moms fall within this millennial generation, which are notably philanthropic. 75% of millennials give to charity. That's the biggest out of any age cohort. They give primarily online and in amounts of $100 or less. How Kangoo works, just quickly operationally how Kangoo works. We go out around the world, we vet hospitals and nonprofits that are operating in developing countries. We go through a typical grant approval process. They post profiles once approved right onto our website. We have a back end that our partners use. They post these profiles of consenting pregnant patients. Users come to the site and search these profiles and again can fund them in increments of $10 or more. Kangoo then transfers all the donations raised to our partners who provide the care and provide real-time updates on the women who are served, like this is one, for example. And finally, donations can be given as a gift or in honor of a loved one. We've had a lot of traction here, for example, people donating on our site and giving it as a gift for Mother's Day or baby registry or baby shower. Our business model, we are a nonprofit that felt most true to our mission, but it was very important for us to generate our own revenue. So we do that in a number of ways. First, we take an administrative fee. So every transaction, we take a 15% administrative fee. Right now, that's about $6 per each transaction. We also, at checkout, users are given the opportunity to give us an optional donation that goes directly to Kangoo to cover overhead costs. Right now, 77% of users give that optional donation, and it's around 10% of their donation cost. So similar sites generally have about a 40% take rate, so we're very, very pleased with the 77%. We pursue philanthropic investments, so this is donations from individuals, grants from foundations, corporations, and the US government. And then finally, we've had a lot of traction with corporate partnerships, and I think this will only grow in the future. We've piloted partnerships with WeSpring, which is a baby product review site, Babylist, which is a universal baby registry, and in November, we're going to launch celebrity baby shower events with star showers and the moms. So it's been a busy year. Kangoo.org went live in March. Since then, we have some tremendous results to show. We funded the safe births of over 150 women, like Irene. If you go on our website and you click on Funded Mamas, you can see all of them. We have a vibrant community of about 1,500 users. Our online donation conversion rate is 8%. What that means of all the unique visitors that come to our site, 8% give donations. That's really high. Over 10 million people have heard Kangoo stories through a radio tour that we did. Again, a lot of traction with corporate partnerships, and expect to really blow that out in the future. We have gotten some great press here from traditional media and also online social media. And importantly, we really validated a lot of our assumptions, both operational and financial, and we have a really strong proof of concept that we're now shopping around. So I keep on talking about we. Who is Kangoo? Kangoo has many wonderful, brilliant, fantastic angel people. who I love very dearly. This is a team. It's myself, Trisha Morente, who's also a CBS grad, Jenny Boyd, and Anu Koslaw. There are a number of other volunteers and people who have worked to get us to where we are who didn't make it to the slide. Together, we have experience in global health, having worked in over 50 countries, in developing countries around the world. We also have collective experience in innovative financing, in crowdfunding models, and also in tech startups. The same thing with our advisors. We really benefit from moral, strategic, and tactical support from our advisors who also have experience in those three areas: tech, global health, and innovative financing. Okay, so this is a pitch competition. So here's my pitch. Kangoo is currently raising seed funding to scale and to expand our impact. Based on our proof of concept thus far, we believe that we are poised and capable of impacting hundreds of thousands of women's lives and of really changing the way nonprofits raise money online. 1 minute, okay, thank you. We've exhibited a highly efficient use of capital and pro bono resources to date. I'm happy to get into further details on that. And then finally, why is our social enterprise an attractive philanthropic investment? So it's a philanthropic investment, meaning people will get a social return, not a financial return. So because what we're doing is building a sustainable financing platform, any donation to us comes with financial leverage. So of the money that we hope to raise, about every 30 seconds, okay? So every dollar that we hope to raise, our platform will raise about 50 cents from crowdfunding. So there's a leverage that you get when contributing to us. And finally, the social impact. It's not just numbers. It's real women. It's real people. It's highly transparent. It's real time. You can go online and see exactly who you can help. Not only who you've helped, but who else has come together to become a part of that woman's birth story. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Questions?
Go ahead.
Now you mentioned 150 births so far, right? So have you noticed repeat donors, people coming back and donating multiple times?
Yep, we have 55% repeat donors. So each person gives about 1.5 times.
And again, what's the average donation?
The average donation is about $43.
Can you speak a bit more about how you work with your hospitals and nonprofits in that vetting process?
Sure. So again, they go through, they submit an application to us where it's sort of a typical grant application. When we approve them as a partner, we then give them a login to the partner administrative site, and they upload photos of their patients, stories, the average cost, and then they provide us updates when the woman comes in, when the woman delivers. They also upload those updates into the platform, and then we wire them. We aggregate the funds, take our fee, and then we wire it to them.
How do the mamas find out about you?
The mamas who are on the site?
Yeah.
So they find out about us through the partners, so our healthcare partners. So it's the healthcare partners who actually find the women, the mamas who are on our site.
Is there a disconnect between the moms who need this kind of care and not even thinking to go to a healthcare provider because they don't think they have the money? How do you inform moms that aren't even reaching out for care? The ones that are reaching out to care probably maybe have the money, but it's a challenge and a struggle. How do you push this program out to people who have no idea they even exist?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we do is we work through our on-the-ground partners because they're the ones who are operating in the communities in which these women work. So there's a lot of outreach that's done. So yes, women come to the healthcare facilities, but sometimes because they can't afford it or because they're not aware of it, they don't. And so there's a lot of outreach that happens through community health workers, and there's a lot of referrals that go on. So a woman will come and receive access to healthcare services, and then she'll go back into her community and tell her friends about it.
Cool. Are there any other questions?
You have plans of expanding beyond birth, right? The child is born now. They'll probably help as well?
Absolutely. That's my dream. And we've heard from a lot of users who have donated. You know, we've donated to this woman. We've seen a picture of her and her baby. What else can we do? Can we help with additional healthcare costs? Can we help with school fees? Anything else you need around the house? So I think that's a natural extension of the model, one that I get very, very excited about.
Do the moms know who's donating? And if so, what do you do to ensure that there then isn't a continual reaching out through just an email or something else asking for something different or
So right now,
extraordinary?
yeah, it's a great question. Right now, it's all intermediated still by the hospital, by the medical facility. So the women, when the mamas, when they come onto the site, they're told about Kangoo, and they're told that there are people around the world who may finance their birth, and they consent. So that's how they know about us. That's an important piece of the model. I think it's a beautiful thing that people know, that women overseas know that there are people thousands of miles away who are care about them and want to support them and want to become part of their birth story. But that's how they hear about us. But in terms of further connection at this point between the donors and the specific moms, it's all intermediated by the hospital.
But the mom could always get onto the website and look herself up and see who's,
Yes.
right? There's a great positive there because it's like,
Absolutely.
wow, look at all these people supporting me. There's
Yes.
always the risk of, right, okay,
Yeah.
interesting, great.
And in the future, there are going to be some really interesting questions about
Okay,
that.
very inspiring. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please join us. Leah from MGood, do you want to come up and, yeah, great, that would be, okay. So we're going to hear a little bit about MGood and the technology behind how we're doing the voting today.
Hi, everyone. Well, just extending another round of applause to our panelists as well as our participants. So fantastic. So I won't take much of your time. I know you all have been here listening to a lot of innovative discussion, intelligent discussion, and now it's time that we hear from you. So what does this mean? That means that we'll be crowdsourcing today's decision around who will win today's pitch competition. So if everybody could take off their badge, that would be great, and look behind, as well as I won't at all ask you to do some sort of cheesy seventh inning stretch and stand up, but I will ask you to take your mobile phone out of your pocket or purse and put it in front of you, so you're well prepared for today's mobile voting. So for those who don't know how this has worked, in the past, we did it last year, and it seems only appropriate that we do it this year again, given the mobile app and everything going paperless. With that, all you have to do, there are two forms of the competition right now. There's the best pitch, and then there's the best investment idea. It's really important to note that the best pitch, Mallory, correct me if I'm wrong, results in the actual financial prize, right? So is that right? I'm sorry.
Well, we'll go there, yeah.
It's the best pitch. That's excellent, thank you. So just so you know, they're just looking for some additional data around who had the best investment idea, but whoever wins the best pitch actually receives the financial reward. So go ahead and take a look and think a bit more. In the next step, towards the end, the judges will actually go ahead and summarize some of their thoughts and some of their feedback, which may influence your decision. If you already are definite in knowing what that is, then go ahead and start texting your vote. And again, you'll look on the back of your pendant here. It's important also to note that the first competition, it's the name of the person and the number 1, and for the second competition over mobile voting, it's the name and then the number 2. I was also asked to say a few words about MGood while you're percolating over your decision. MGood is essentially a company, and just to go back a few steps, I'm the CEO and founder of MGood. I'm also in the class of 2010 here at the business school. And MGood was a company really founded in order to close the gap in the need for not-for-profits to reach out via mobile to what we call the modern participant. And that's the person that's on the go. That's the person that needs information. Basically, the majority of information right now on your phone is downloaded via mobile versus internet. So people people are seeking information, they're seeking ways to get involved over mobile. So we're enabling not-for-profits through strategy consulting, various tools and services to enable them to do that successfully. We're servicing about 50 plus clients, including Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and other. And in addition, just some fun facts that we have to deal with is that 45 billion SMS messages are sent every month. So obviously this is a universe to harness. So thanks everybody, and look forward to hearing the final feedback from the judges.
All right, thank you. So we're going to ask the judges to just give some final feedback in terms of anything from presentation style to market to the actual product. If you're unsure of who you're going to vote for yet, I'd encourage you to wait and listen to some of the feedback that the judges give, and then let's hear from the group and see where things are at for folks. Okay? You want to give a couple of comments?
Yeah. So the three presentations, I think Kangoo was the only one who actually had a pitch, right? Talking about looking for something in exchange of what they're doing. The presentations were all very well structured. Putting the concept and the reasoning behind the business really well. Everyone did a really great job. But the pitch itself, Kangoo was more structured, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, I would agree in terms of, what's the ask? If you're pitching to someone, then there's an ask and there's some type of justification for the ask. I thought for Green Barrel, I wanted to see more around the actual business model. The story was great, but it took a while to sort of get to what the company's real goals were and the core business model there. And I would say, for NuSkool, there's a lot of activity right now in the ed tech space, and I know from the work that we do, there are companies that are doing, similar work, may not be exactly like your work. So it would have been nice to kind of see a competitive analysis as to where you sort of fit in that space. And for a mission-driven investor, the impact and the outcome piece of it is very important to us.
Also, just a final word is, I thought the ideas out there were great. One of the gaps between a great idea and an actual business is who's paying, right? That's always sort of the gap, is everyone's very excited about a great idea that they have, but in order to transfer it into becoming a real business, you have to figure out who's going to pay and how much they're going to pay. And so I always encourage people to think about it in this way. People actually pay for a few different types of things. They pay for you to solve a problem, like my tooth hurts right now, I'll pay for somebody to alleviate that pain. They will pay for a convenience, something that will make them feel good, or entertainment, or for something that makes them feel better about themselves, a status type of thing. So you want to be very, very clear in your presentations as to who's actually going to pay for your product, and why are they going to pay, and how much they're going to pay. It's the one thing that oftentimes differentiates an idea from a business. But three very inspiring ideas. I think it was very obvious that they were all tackling a significant need. I think obviously the presentation we just saw is a major, major need that involves life and death situations. I think we all know from being students that there were oftentimes situations where we sat in class, not at Columbia Business School, I mean back when we were younger, where we were probably bored, but the topic itself was interesting. We were just bored in terms of the way it was being taught, and then who hasn't run out of juice in their cell phone when they really needed it, right? So everybody's got a good problem that they're trying to solve. So let's go ahead and do the voting and take a minute. What's up? Yes. So Abran Maldonado, NuSkool. Yeah, okay. Tommy Mitchell, Green Barrel Energy. Yeah. And Casey Santiago, Kangoo.org. Okay, everybody's very clear. Everybody remembers the ideas and pitches. Okay, so please take a moment and go ahead and place your votes. Okay. I don't know if I announced this at the beginning, but the winner is going to get 2 hours of free business advice from the Collaborative Fund, which I think most entrepreneurs would find extremely valuable, usually you're pitching to investors, to actually have an investor coach you for 2 hours can go a very long way in terms of answering questions that you have and making sure you're really prepared for when you raise money. And if you're interested in some very unique social businesses and social ventures, I would encourage you to go to the Collaborative Fund's website. I think they've been very innovative in terms of being very disciplined about their model, which is promoting collaborative consumption and also just finding some very unique business models out there. So, and when all the votes are tallied and come in, we'll see them in a minute or two come up there. Hey, could I have everyone's attention, please? Can I have everyone's attention, please? So we actually have a tie. So I'm going to have to work with the Collaborative Fund to try and get some additional hours of business advice. But Green Barrel and Kangoo tied. So congratulations to you guys, and you'll go both get 2 hours of free advice, and all three ideas I think were phenomenal, and I think are solving a major problem that's out there. So it's great to see that coming out of Columbia Business School, and have a great weekend, everybody, and please give a final round of applause for our presenters.